People who has experienced sleep paralysis, what's it like? Usually whenever I have them, they appear in the corner of my room. They're tall and impossibly thin, with large and long hands, all pitch shadows with red circles where eyes should be. They sort of resemble people. They usually just come up and sit on the edge of my bed and pat my knee gently as if to comfort me. They aren't mean or anything. They go between looking at me and just looking at things around my room, reading posters, etc. Eventually they sort of just dissolve into thin air and then they're gone. It's a weird experience, but I'm glad it's not deeply horrifying. As a child, 2 to 4 years old, I knew my Victorian bed was haunted. Every night, a group of gnomes would sit on the end of it, pulling faces at me, laughing, making rude gestures, while I was frozen, unable to call for help or even just hide under the covers. Oddly, my little sister wound up with that bed and tells me she had nightmares that exactly match the ringleader of my nightly visitors. I assume I must have told her about them, but neither of us remember talking about it. As an adult, it's altogether more threatening but much less frequent. I have 2 visitors, never on the same nights. The less threatening is a gray humanoid demon with smooth skin, red-pink gums, long claws and large muscles. He sinks his claws into my leg and tries to pull me from the bed. I can't move and it only goes when I manage to scream and my husband wakes me up. Sometimes those can last for what feels like hours. Worse is my Hat Man. Hat Man doesn't cause me physical pain, but he stands next to the bed or in the corner of the room while I am suffocating and paralyzed. When I get this one, thankfully rarely, there's an intense visceral sense of mindless terror. It sinks into me and causes anxiety for days afterwards. In the light of day, I am not afraid of any of these things, arachnophobia crew here, but I can't convey the fear they inspire when I am helpless. I get it when I'm very sleep deprived. I don't know if it's the same with everyone, but it starts off with a feeling of a sense of dread, immediately followed by what feels like my body going numb limp, accompanied with the feeling of vibrations. I'll feel like I'm internally vibrating, with the sound of rumbling or deep train whistles going through my ears. Then amongst all of this, the sense of dread is lingering, but it turns to fear as I sense an evil or demonic presence lingering over me. Sometimes I don't see anything, and it's only the feeling of a horrific presence lurching behind me about to threaten me. Other times, I actually visualize some horror movie-esque demon peering at me from the foot of my bed or outside the door of my room, like a lifeless, pale figure of a woman with hair going down the front of her face, but the face is warped and twisted to look inhuman. I'll be thinking to myself, wake up, while doing my best to move any part of my body or tense up muscles to try to snap myself back into control. I had one experience that was probably a form of sleep paralysis. I was living alone in a basement suite and had a loft bed. I woke up to the sound of someone coming down the concrete stairs to my suite. They opened the glass door, click click, swoosh, and then the wooden door. I could hear them turn the knob and open the door. They stepped in with soft footfalls on the tile and let the glass door bang shut behind them. My suite was just one room and they spent a few minutes going around the room and moving dishes. A metal bowl fell to the floor, shuffling papers at my desk under the bunk, opening drawers, etc. They opened and closed my laptop and then I could hear them go to the end of my bed. The bed was an IKEA loft bed with stairs. I could feel it shift as they slowly stepped up and hear each soft footfall and the creak of the wood. They got to the top and began to crawl over me. I could feel the bed shift and hear it creak as they place one hand by my knee, the next by my hip, and then move their first hand up to my shoulder, while their knee pressed into the mattress by my thigh. I could feel and hear them, but although I could feel their breath on my face and feel the sunken mattress, I could see nothing. Not that there was no light, they were just not visible. I could see straight through to the ceiling as I lay on my back. Then they retreated one hand, one knee at a time. Soft footfalls and creaky wood back down the stairs. They shuffled some more papers on the desk, and then I could sense more than hear as they placed one hand on the side of the bed by my head, then the other, and suddenly they leaped up, pulling their face over the edge of the bed near my head and rasped out, "I'm here." As they came towards my face, right as they would have hit me, they just vanished. I was in a state of silent, unmoving terror the entire time. When she vanished, I was finally able to sit up. I realized my room was filled with smoke and remember having the most bizarre sense of relief like, oh, the scary demon lady isn't real. My house is just on fire. Thank goodness. Turns out, the smoke came from plastic that had leaked out of my 3D printer. It wasn't burning, just a buildup on the heat block that had started to smoke. I'm not sure if that smoke made me hallucinate or what, but I still get anxious and panicky when I think about her. They're different. Sometimes it's just black fog rolling over me, sometimes it's the old hag, sometimes a shadow in the shape of a man. Always, they creep through the windows or my open bedroom door and get terrifying close to me. The scariest one was a hulking black demon shadow that walked through my door and across the room to the opposite side of my bed. It stopped there while I was thinking, "You aren't real, I didn't invite you here," and struggling to move or talk. Eventually, it walked back to my open door. When it got to the doorway, I thought, "What's your name?" And it zoomed lightning speed to me, leaned over my face, and said an R word that I cannot remember. That broke the paralysis, and I was finally able to move and gasp for air. This was about 6 to 7 years ago, when I lived alone in my early 30s. It was absolutely terrifying. Sometimes I don't have demons at all. It's just a loud, static-like sound, and the feeling of trying to rise out of my body while being unable to move or talk. Happens a lot when I nap on the couch because of sleeping on my back. It takes forever to be able to move, and I have to lay there struggling for so long. Sleep paralysis is very fleeting weird. I typically wake up unable to move limbs, but I can usually move my head. I never see anything, but there is always a murderous presence in the room. Very rarely, I might see a shadowy figure, but it's always just on the outside edge of my vision, and so I never get a clear look. I don't believe I'm actually awake during my episodes, as I have managed to pull myself out of bed in the dream once or twice, but woke up back in bed. The worst part is if I go back to sleep, it's right back to the same thing, which always happens because I'm mentally exhausted by the time I snap out of it. I don't really know the best way to describe this part. I know when it's happening, but I can't help but feel that overwhelming sense of dread, like my life is about to end, and all I can do is lay there and deal with it until I wake up. I'd liken it to a full-blown anxiety attack as far as the feeling I get, ramped up a bit though because Shadow Guy is definitely going to kill me, so sometimes I scream for my wife to help, other times I fight the paralysis with every ounce of strength I have just trying to get myself the flurbo out of there. When I finally fully wake up, I sort of just sit there and process what the flurbo just happened for a good 15 minutes. After reading about the phenomenon for years, I was excited, after the fact, to finally experience it. I've always experienced sleep paralysis in the dream world, being unable to run fast or hit hard. There were times when I'd go off a jump on a sled or bike, then it would freeze in the air, and I would be jerking the sled or bike, trying to get it to unstick from the air and return to the ground. One evening not long ago, I awoke on my back, dim hallway light from an exterior window came in through the bedroom door. A figure was leaning over the bed. It was tall, dark and slender, standing at the foot of the bed, but it bent over forward, unnaturally at the knees, like Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It slowly leaned over the bed, over me, its face getting closer to mine. It wore a black hat and had a blurry grinning face. The face was ghost gray-white with dark shadows. I could tell it was grinning, but couldn't make out the eyes behind blurry dark gray shadows. It closely resembled the creepy old man from Poltergeist. I remember thinking, if this thing so much as touches me, I'm taking a swing at it. It was an unsettling experience when it happened. I awoke to full consciousness not long after, and nothing was there, and kept thinking about it the next day after getting up. As time went on, I was more excited to have finally experienced it than to consider it horrifying. But I experienced it as an adult. As a child, I probably would have found it more unpleasant. I was sleeping and turned to lay on my side. That's when I opened my eyes, then got stuck. I closed my eyes and I opened them again, and what I saw, I will never forget. Something huge was on me. I could feel it and see it on my chest. It was black, but you can see through it with no face. Then it leans in. It spoke to me. It said, "God can't help you and list." It said more, but I was just too scared to listen, so I turned away. I was looking at my wall, and that's when I saw shadows. Shadows were bouncing all over my walls and all over my room. I was scared fleebless. I started praying and screaming for help. But no one helped me. I saw my niece walk past my door multiple times. I was baffled how she didn't see me. The door was cracked enough where she could see me, and she had to pass my door to get to my sister's room. ATP, I was crying, asking please to get off of me because it seemed like this was going to last forever, and then I got up. Sweating, heaving, and hollering, I ran to the living room where everyone was and told them. At first they thought I was joking, but as I keep on talking and let them feel my chest, they believed me. Also, my shirt was soaked. I asked my niece why she didn't help me, and the look on her face, I would never forget. She was confused. She said she didn't go in my sister's room and that she didn't see me because my door was shut. She said she just got here and she was about to go in my room to ask if she can play with my piano, but she saw the door was shut and just assumed I was sleeping. Then it hit me. I was so scared, I didn't realize when I got up and ran to the door, I opened it. So that means it was shut the whole time. So how did I see my niece walk past my room multiple times? That stuff creeps me till this day and I always sleep with my door open. I've experienced it 4 times. Same apparition every time, although it depends on the position I wake up in. First time was truly terrifying. I was lying on my side in bed so that I could see the floor. I spotted a pool of jet black darkness moving on the ground. It felt so real, I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs but couldn't. The pool creeped right in front of me. It was flat, just like a pool of liquid or ink. When it got that near to me, it stopped moving, and the upper half of a dog head emerged and stared at me with its yellow eyes. Then it sort of dissipated into thin air, and I screamed like crazy. Other times, I wouldn't be able to see it from my position sometimes, but I'd hear the gushing sound of the pool moving on the ground and the breath of the dog. I stopped getting scared after the second time as it had never harmed me. Just come near me and stare.